This is a family drama, and yeah, I think one of the most, incredible things about T'Challa's arc is that he has to confront his ancestors. He has to confront the tradition that he believed was, infallible, and the fact that he is able to confront his ancestors, he is able to when they have built this thing that is fantastic, they've built not only a deep tradition, but a future that has so much hope and ambition and aspiration. If he can confront his ancestors, then we, can confront ours, who by no means are perfect.
Just teaching these kids how to dream again, and to be open-minded, to understand differences from all walks of life, to have that conversation and know what that inclusion's like. I think it's super important to, for the next generation to be maybe a little bit more open-minded than we are, than our forefathers. And I think if we continue to do movies and be responsible storytellers and really depict the world that we actually live in, you can see some real change down the line.
To me, that's what's really exciting, is that it breaks any concepts we've previously had about, or not me, but that were previously had about who could tell a story on this scale and who was allowed to, or who was going to get the backing to do it. And I think the beauty is that, the courage of this story was that it delves deeply into a society that we've never seen, but fully experiencing and celebrating the African expression of self, from language to costume to traditions and connections to your past and your ancestry. Those sort of things are things that are very African and were deeply delved into. And then, of course, allowed for all of the global issues that if a nation like this existed, it would be dealing with as it deals with its own growth period. And that is something that I think is so resonant for the world as well. So when Ryan laid out his vision, and then, of course, the way he wanted to portray the women and the way we were able to contribute to that and collaborate and feel an ownership of what came out, all those things, I think, are just a great example of what, I hope we continue to do in our industry, and also what makes me excited, what made me excited to be a part of it.
We are attracted to stories where we see women in the light that we see them in the real world, and eclipsed. And we are also interested in demystifying the African woman, and that's why Danai writes Eclipsed, and that's why I want to make Eclipsed, and I want to be in Eclipsed, because it's such a refreshing, new look at the people we come from. And this is no exception. I think it feels good to be an agent of change and to make the world of storytelling look more like the world we know, and the world we belong.
For Panther, it's kind of two aspects to it that make it a little tough. One is that, to tell a true Wakanda story, to tell a real story about Panther, you kind of got to see Wakanda, and to see Wakanda means that, you're going to see a lot of black people, you know what I mean? And I think that aspect of it, having a cast that's predominantly, of African descent, for whatever reason, you know what I'm saying? Like it takes studios a certain amount of bravery to do that. I think it's because it's kind of a lot of preconceived notions about what a film, how much money a film can make if it looked like that. The other thing is how expensive it would have been to do. It's expensive to do now with the advancements in digital technologies and VFX. And tax credits and all this different stuff. Because to realize Wakanda as it should be seen, takes a lot of resources. You know what I mean? So I think that's the other aspect of it. In those times, people were debating, whether or not they can make an X-Men movie. You know what I'm saying? Like whether or not you can pull off another Batman movie or a Spider-Man movie. And these are characters that are much more well known than T'Challa ever was. Much more mainstream. The revolution will be live.
I think it's a perfect time for this movie. I think if we tried to make this movie 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we could have made it, but I don't think it would have been this important. I don't think it would have. You got to think about it. All the things had to fall into the right place. Ryan had to have the career that he had to have. Chadwick had to have the amazing career that he had. Same thing with Lupita. Same thing with Forrest and Angela and myself and Andy. Everybody had to do their thing at the right time. Especially the climate that we are right now. In the world, with how we're culturally speaking and systemic oppression and. The way the people feel about how their country's being ran or anything like that. I feel like everything kind of started the conversation. It set the table for this conversation, and I think it's the perfect time for it.
When you play a real person, it's an icon or idea that people have patterned their lives after. There are people that I've met who say, "Oh, I became an attorney because of Thurgood Marshall," and or Jackie Robinson, defined my life, and that if you mess up with that, it's a huge loss, it's a huge letdown, and I think it's the same with this. This is a thing of. The things that we create, the fantasies that we create, your identity is, and your destiny is defined by your words. It's defined by what you make up in your head. So even though it is a superhero, the fact that you believe it and the fact that we believe as human beings in superpowers, there are certain moments when you have to be greater than you normally are. You have to be stronger. You have to have more endurance than you normally would. And so when we watch superheroes, we're actually watching something that we aspire to and believe we can reach at certain moments when we need it. And so you can't mess up on that, because there are people that use a superhero movie to fight through a hard time with cancer or a loss in their family or some other conflict or tragedy. Those superhero movies mean something to them because they help them to get through those hard times.